I'm 76 years old. On March 14th, 2023, my son David died in a car accident on Route 287. He was 48, my only child. They called me at 11:47 p.m. I remember because I was watching the news with the volume too loud, the way old people do, and I had to rewind to make sure I heard them right. Your son. Accident. I'm so sorry. I got to the hospital by 1:15 a.m. He was already gone. Had been for 40 minutes. Here's what nobody tells you about losing your only child. You don't just lose them. You lose your entire future. Every grandchild that won't exist. Every Christmas that will now be Tuesday. Every phone call that won't come. You lose the one person who was supposed to scatter your ashes, who was supposed to remember you were real. I stood in that hospital hallway, sterile, fluorescent, smelling like industrial cleaner, and I realized something that broke me more than the death itself. I couldn't remember the last time we had a real conversation. Not the, "How's work, Dad? Good, busy, you?" kind. A real one, where we talked about something that mattered. Where I asked him a question I actually wanted to know the answer to. Where he told me something true. I tried to remember in that hallway. I went back weeks, then months. The last dinner, September, maybe? We talked about his promotion, my golf game, his new car, his wife's sister's wedding we couldn't attend. Surface. All surface. The last time I told him I loved him? His birthday, January 9th. 2 months and 5 days before he died. "Love you, Dad," he said as we were hanging up. "You too," I said, distracted, probably looking at my phone. You too. Not, "I love you, David." Not, "I'm proud of you." Not even his name. You too. I'm sitting here now telling you this because I need you to understand something before it's too late for you. Before you're standing in a hospital hallway at 1:15 a.m., trying to remember when you last looked your child in the eyes and saw them. I was a good father. Everyone said so. I provided. I worked 60-hour weeks at the accounting firm to put David through private school, through Duke University, through his MBA. I paid for his wedding. I helped with the down payment on his house in Montclair. I never missed a child support payment after the divorce from his mother in 1991. I was responsible, reliable, present at the important events. His high school graduation, I was there. College graduation, front row. Wedding, I gave the toast everyone said was perfect. I remembered birthdays. I sent Christmas presents. I showed up. And I thought that was enough. You think that's enough too, don't you? You think if you provide, if you show up to the big events, if you're not absent the way your father might have been, then you're doing it right. Let me tell you what I found 3 days after the funeral. I spent those 3 days going through David's apartment. His wife Sarah couldn't do it. She was 7 months pregnant with their first child. My granddaughter I'll meet, but David never will. A girl. They were going to name her Emma. Sarah asked me to pack up his office. Just his work stuff, she said. I can't look at it yet. His office was small. Desk, bookshelf, filing cabinet. Diplomas on the wall that I'd paid for. Photos of his wedding, his house, his promotions. A small photo of me from 1983, him at age 8, holding a fish we'd caught on Lake Hopatcong. I don't remember that day, but there's photographic evidence it happened. I started with the desk. Bills, work files, tax returns. Then I opened the bottom drawer. A folder. Plain manila. No label. Thick. I almost threw it in the donation box. Almost. I opened it. Inside were 47 letters, all addressed to me, none of them sent. The first one was dated June 15th, 2007. David was 32. The last one was dated February 18th, 2023. 3 weeks and 4 days before he died. 16 years of letters my son wrote to me, but never mailed. I sat on the floor of his office and I read them, all 47. It took me 6 hours. I didn't move, didn't eat, didn't call Sarah to tell her what I'd found. You want to know what they said? The first letter, June 2007. Dad, I got the promotion today. Senior account manager. The one I've been working toward for 3 years. I called to tell you and you said, "That's great, son. Listen, I'm on the course. Can I call you back?" You didn't call back. It's been 4 days. I know you're busy. I know golf is important to you. I know I should just be grateful you answered it all. But I wanted to tell you what this meant to me. Not the title, not the money. I wanted to tell you that I finally feel like I'm good enough. Like I've proven something. Like maybe you'd be proud. But I can't say that on the phone. It sounds needy. It sounds weak. So instead, I'll write it here and never send it. And next time we talk, I'll just say, "Thanks for the congratulations," even though you never congratulated me, even though you never called back. I read that letter on his office floor, and I remembered that phone call. I remembered being on the 14th hole with Jim Patterson. I remembered thinking, I'll call him tonight, and then forgetting because the game went long, and by the time I got home it was late and it slipped my mind. 4 days. He waited 4 days. I never called back. The second letter was August 2007. Dad, you asked if I wanted to get dinner next week. I said yes. You said you'd check your calendar and let me know. That was 3 weeks ago. I don't know if you forgot, or if you're just busy, or if you decided it wasn't worth your time. I made a reservation at that Italian place you like, Gusto's, for 2. I kept it for 2 weeks, kept calling to push it back, until finally the hostess said, "Sir, maybe you should wait until your guest confirms." I canceled it yesterday. I feel stupid. I'm 32 years old, and I'm sad that my dad forgot about dinner. How pathetic is that? I don't remember that conversation. I don't remember promising dinner. But I believe him because that's exactly the kind of thing I did. I meant well. I always meant to follow through. But work would come up. Golf. My poker night with the guys. Something always came up. The third letter, December 2007. Dad, I know you're spending Christmas with Barbara and her family in Connecticut this year. I understand. You've been dating her for 8 months and it's serious. I'm happy for you. Really. But when you told me on the phone, you said, "You'll be fine. You're spending it with Sarah's family anyway." You didn't ask if I minded. You didn't ask if maybe I wanted to see you on Christmas Eve or the day after. You just assumed I'd be fine. And I am fine. I'm 32 years old. I don't need my daddy on Christmas. But I wanted my father. I wanted to tell you that Sarah and I are trying for a baby. I wanted to tell you that I'm scared. That I don't know how to be a dad because I'm not sure I ever really had one. Not in the way that counts. But I can't say that. So I'll write it here. Merry Christmas, Dad. They were trying for a baby in 2007. I didn't know that. He never told me. Or maybe he tried and I wasn't listening. They never had children. Sarah's pregnancy now at 42 is a miracle the doctors can't explain. A gift David will never see. I kept reading, letter after letter after letter, 16 years of them, each one polite, each one understanding, each one forgiving me for something I didn't even know I'd done. Missing his 35th birthday dinner because I had a client meeting. Forgetting to come to his MBA graduation because the date got mixed up in my calendar. Canceling our fishing trip in 2010 because Barbara wanted to go to her sister's wedding in Florida. Cutting short our lunch in 2012 because Jim called about tea time. Not visiting when he had surgery for a herniated disc in 2015 because I had the flu. Except I didn't have the flu. I had a cold. And I could have driven the 40 minutes to see him, but I didn't. Each letter documented. Each letter dated. Each letter ending the same way. I know you're busy. I know you care. I know you love me even if you don't say it. I'll see you soon. Except soon kept getting further apart. I counted. Between 2015 and 2020, we saw each other 11 times. 5 years, 11 times. Twice a year. And I lived 40 minutes away. Do you know what that math is? That's 1,825 days. I saw my son 11 of them. You're sitting there reading this and you're thinking, but he was busy too. He was an adult. He could have reached out more. You're right. He could have. But look what I found in letter number 33, dated April 2019. Dad, I tried something different today. I called you just to talk. No reason, no occasion, no favor to ask, just to talk. You answered on the third ring. I said, "Hey, Dad, just calling to say hi." You said, "Oh, hi. Everything okay?" I said, "Yeah, everything's fine." You said, "Oh, good. Hey, I'm actually about to head out. Can I call you later?" I said, "Sure." You didn't call later. You never call later. I realize today that every time I call you, you think something's wrong. Because that's the only time I call now. When I need something. When something's wrong. We don't just talk anymore. I don't think we ever did. I don't think you know how to talk to me when there's no agenda. I don't think I know how to talk to you either. We've become strangers who share DNA and a last name and nothing else. He was right. I treated conversations with my son like errands, like items on a to-do list. Birthday call? Check. Christmas call? Check. Emergency? Handle and move on. I never just called to hear his voice. The last letter, February 18th, 2023. 3 weeks and 4 days before he died. Dad, Sarah's pregnant. 12 weeks. It's a girl. We're naming her Emma. We're terrified and excited, and I wanted to call you, but I don't know what to say anymore. I don't know how to talk to you about real things. I've spent 30 years trying to have a conversation with you that goes deeper than weather and golf scores, and I'm tired. I'm so tired, Dad. But here's what I'm going to do. When Emma is born, I'm going to be different. I'm going to be the father I wished I had. I'm going to ask her questions and actually listen to the answers. I'm going to cancel golf if she needs me. I'm going to show up, not just at graduations and weddings, at Tuesday, at normal, at nothing special. I'm going to be there. And maybe when she's older, she won't have a folder full of unsent letters. Maybe she'll just call me, just to talk, just because. That's all I ever wanted from you, Dad, just to talk, just because. I sat on that floor and I cried for the first time since the hospital. Not because he died, because he lived 48 years wanting a father who was 40 minutes away and I was too busy to notice. You're reading this and you're thinking about your own children, your own father, your own folder of unsent letters, real or imagined. Let me tell you what I learned in that office, on that floor, surrounded by my dead son's words. You think you're busy. You think you don't have time. You think your children understand. You think there will be another chance, another Tuesday, another phone call, another dinner. There won't be. I know this because I spent the next 4 days after finding those letters reconstructing my life from 2007 to 2023. I went through my calendars, my bank statements, my emails, my photos. 16 years of evidence of what I chose to do instead of knowing my son. Here's what I found. From 2007 to 2023, I played golf 847 times. I have a handicap tracker app. It doesn't lie. 847 rounds. Average 4 hours per round. That's 3,388 hours. That's 141 full days. That's nearly 5 months of my life on a golf course. In those same 16 years, based on my calendar and our phone records, I spent approximately 164 hours with David. That includes dinners, phone calls, holiday visits, everything. 164 hours with my only child versus 3,388 hours chasing a little white ball around manicured grass. You do that math. I spent 20 times more time playing golf than I spent with my son. Let me show you what I chose instead of him. These are facts, dates, receipts. September 23rd, 2008. David called and asked if I wanted to come over to watch the Giants game. He said Sarah was visiting her sister and he'd order pizza and it would be like old times. I said I couldn't because I had plans. The plans? Poker night with Jim, Steve, and Marcus. We played every other Tuesday for 11 years. I never missed a single game. I missed my son asking me to spend time with him because I had poker night with guys I barely remember now. November 2008. David invited me to Thanksgiving at his house. First time he and Sarah were hosting. He called 3 times, left 2 voicemails. I finally called back and said I was going to Barbara's family again. I wasn't. Barbara and I had broken up in October. I spent Thanksgiving alone, watching football, eating a supermarket rotisserie chicken, because I was too proud to admit to my son that I had nowhere else to go. I chose pride. I chose a rotisserie chicken over Thanksgiving with my son. March 2009, letter number 7. Dad, I joined a book club. I know that sounds stupid. I know you'll probably laugh. But it's not really about books. It's about having conversations about things that matter, about ideas, about life. There's this guy, Robert. He's 67. He talks about books the way I wish you and I could talk about anything. He asks questions. He listens. He remembers what I said last month. Last week, he asked me what I thought about ambition versus contentment, and we talked for an hour. I realize I've never had that conversation with you. I've never had any conversation with you that lasted an hour, except when you were mad at me in 1997 for wrecking the car. That lasted 90 minutes. But talking about life, about ideas, about what I think, never. There's a father at the book club who brings his son. The son is 26. They debate and laugh and disagree, and it's beautiful. I wanted that with you. I still want that with you. But I don't know how to ask for it without sounding like I'm criticizing you. So I'll just go to book club. and I'll pretend Robert is my father for one night a month, because at least he's interested in what I think. My son joined a book club to find a father figure. I was alive. I was healthy. I was 40 minutes away. He found a surrogate father in a book club because I was too busy to have a conversation. May 2010, I planned a fishing trip to Montana. 12 days, $8,000. I've been talking about it for years. David called and asked if maybe we could do a fishing trip together that summer. Maybe rent a cabin upstate for a long weekend. Just us. I told him I couldn't. I already had the Montana trip booked with Jim and Steve. I did not invite my son on the Montana trip, even though there was room. I did not cancel the Montana trip to do something with my son. I did not suggest we do both. I said maybe next summer. There was no next summer. There never is. July 2011. David's letter number 12. Dad, I saw you at ShopRite today. Aisle 7. You didn't see me. You were on your phone, laughing. You looked happy, younger than you do when you see me. I stood there for 3 minutes watching you, trying to decide if I should say hi. I didn't. I walked away, because I realized that if I approached you, you'd do that thing you do, that forced smile, that, oh hey, like you're surprised but not really happy, that look of obligation. And I couldn't take it today. So I just watched you laugh on the phone with whoever makes you actually happy, and I went home. Sarah asked why I was quiet at dinner. I told her I was tired. But the truth is, I saw my father today, and I hid from him, because it hurts less to not see you at all than to see that you're capable of joy, just not with me. I was in ShopRite on July something, 2011. I was probably on the phone with Barbara. We'd gotten back together in 2010. I was probably laughing at something stupid, something meaningless. My son was in aisle 7, 30 feet away, and he hid from me, because I had made him feel like seeing me was a burden. November 2012. I missed our scheduled lunch. I wrote it down for the wrong day. When David called to ask where I was, I said, sorry, I got the dates mixed up. Can we reschedule? He said, sure, Dad, no problem. We never rescheduled. I have the calendar entry. Lunch with David, November 14th. I showed up November 15th. He was already gone. I could have called him. I could have driven to his office. I could have made it right immediately. I sent a text. Sorry about yesterday. Let's try for next month. He replied, no worries. Talk soon. We didn't talk soon. We talked at Christmas, 5 weeks later, for 8 minutes. January 2013, letter number 15. Dad, I'm in therapy. I started 3 months ago. The therapist asked me about my childhood yesterday. I told her it was fine, normal. You provided. You were there. She asked if I felt close to you. I said, "He's my father." She said, "That's not what I asked." I sat there for 10 minutes trying to think of a single memory of you where we just existed together, where we weren't doing something specific, where we just were. I couldn't think of one. Not one. She asked when I last told you something I was afraid of. I laughed. I can't remember ever telling you something I was afraid of. You don't do feelings, Dad. You do facts. You do logistics. You do surface. So I pay $180 an hour to tell a stranger the things I wish I could tell you, like the fact that I'm terrified I'll be a bad father someday, that I don't know how to be close to people because I learned from watching you that love is shown through distance, through providing, through showing up to the big things and being absent for everything else. She asked if I'd ever told you any of this. I said no. She asked why. I said because he'd tell me I'm being dramatic, or he'd say he did his best, or he'd change the subject. She asked how I knew that. I said because that's what he always does. I'm 38 years old, and I'm learning that my relationship with my father has shaped every relationship I have, every friendship that didn't go deep, every wall I put up with Sarah, every time I chose work over presence. I learned it all from you, Dad, and I don't know how to unlearn it. My son was in therapy because of me for at least 3 months before that letter, probably longer. $180 per session, probably weekly. Let's say 50 sessions a year. That's $9,000 a year for multiple years based on later letters. My son spent tens of thousands of dollars in therapy to heal from having me as a father, and I had no idea. April 2014. I retired from the accounting firm, 63 years old, full pension. I'd worked there for 37 years. They threw me a party, 75 people, speeches, plaques, a Rolex. David came. He gave a toast. Everyone said it was touching. I don't remember what he said. After the party in the parking lot, he said, "Dad, now that you're retired, maybe we could spend more time together. Maybe we could do that fishing trip we keep talking about." I said, "Definitely. I'll have a lot more free time now." I did have more free time. I played golf 3 times a week instead of twice. I traveled to Arizona for a month every winter. I took up woodworking. I joined a men's breakfast group at church. I did not plan a fishing trip with my son. Letter number 20, June 2014. Dad, it's been 2 months since you retired. You said we'd spend more time together. I haven't heard from you. I called twice last week. You didn't answer. You didn't call back. I know you're busy enjoying retirement. I know you've earned it. But I thought more time together meant something. I thought maybe now that you didn't have work as an excuse, we could finally... I don't know what I thought. I'm 39 years old, and I'm still waiting for my father to choose me. How pathetic is that? How long do I wait? When do I accept that this is all it's ever going to be? When do I stop hoping? From 2014 to 2023, my retirement years, my free time years, I saw David an average of 8 times per year. 8. Once every 6 weeks. I had 3,287 days of retirement before he died. I spent maybe 60 of them with him. June 2015. David had surgery for a herniated disc. Sarah called me the day before to let me know. I said, "Tell him I hope it goes well. I'd visit, but I've got this cold and I don't want to get him sick before surgery." I didn't have a cold. I had allergies, sniffles, nothing. I didn't visit him in the hospital because I was uncomfortable with hospitals, because I didn't know what to say, because sitting by a hospital bed felt hard and awkward, and I didn't want to do hard and awkward. Letter number 23, June 2015. Dad, I had surgery yesterday. Sarah told you. You didn't come. You said you were sick. Sarah called to check on you today to see how you were feeling. You answered on the first ring. You sounded fine. You weren't sick, Dad. You just didn't want to come. And that's okay, I guess. I'm 40 years old. I shouldn't need my daddy to hold my hand during surgery, but I wanted you there. Not because I was scared of the surgery, but because I wanted to see if you'd show up, if I was important enough for you to be uncomfortable. I wasn't. I'm not. I know that now. He knew. He knew I was lying. He knew I chose my comfort over his need. And he never called me on it. He just wrote it in a letter and forgave me and moved on. October 2016. Letter number 27. Dad, I turned 41 today. You sent a card. You always send cards. It said, "Happy birthday, son. Hope it's a good one. Love, Dad." Same thing you write every year. Same generic message. Same card from the same CVS you always go to. I've kept every birthday card you've sent me. 23 years of them. They're all exactly the same. Do you know what would have meant more than any card? A phone call where you asked me one real question, where you asked me what I'm afraid of, what I'm proud of, what keeps me up at night, what I hope for, anything real. But you don't ask those questions, Dad. You ask, "How's work? How's Sarah? Everything good?" And I say, "Fine, good, yeah." And we hang up. And you think that's a relationship. It's not. It's a script we've both memorized. and I'm tired of reading my lines. I sent him 23 identical birthday cards. 23 years of hope it's a good one. I never asked him what he hoped for. December 2017. Christmas at David and Sarah's house. I arrived at 3 p.m. I left at 6:30. 3.5 hours. I said I had to get home before the traffic got bad. There was no traffic. It was Christmas. I left because I was bored. Because Sarah's parents were there and I didn't know what to talk to them about. Because David and I had already exhausted our usual topics. Because 3.5 hours was all I could manage. Letter number 31, December 2017. Dad, you left early again. You always leave early. Every holiday, every dinner, every event. You show up, you do the minimum, you leave. I watched you check your watch 3 times in the last hour you were here. 3 times. Like you were counting down. Like being with me is something to endure, not enjoy. Sarah's father asked about you after you left. He said, "Your dad seems like a good man, but he doesn't say much, does he?" I didn't know what to say, so I said, "He's just private." But that's not it, Dad. You're not private. You're absent. Even when you're here, you're absent. You're thinking about what's next, where else you'd rather be. You've been doing it my whole life. And I've been pretending not to notice. But I noticed, Dad. I've always noticed. I checked my watch. He counted. He spent his Christmas watching me count down the minutes until I could leave. March 2019. I was supposed to meet David for lunch. Our quarterly lunch. We did it 4 times a year, like clockwork. I canceled the morning of because Jim got last-minute tickets to a Mets spring training game in Florida. I texted David, "Hey, something came up. Can we push to next month?" He texted back, "Sure." That's all. Just sure. We rescheduled for April. I canceled again. Work thing. Except I was retired. The work thing was helping my neighbor Steve build a deck. We rescheduled for May. We actually met that time. We talked about his job, my golf game, the Mets. 45 minutes. I cut it short because I had a tea time at 1:30. Letter number 34, May 2019. Dad, we had lunch today. It took 3 tries to actually make it happen. 3 cancellations over 2 months. When we finally met, you spent most of the time looking at your phone, checking scores, texting. When you did talk, you talked about golf, your game, your buddies, your handicap. I tried to tell you about the promotion I'm up for. You said, "That's great," without looking up from your phone. Then you said you had to go. You had a tea time. You always have a tea time, Dad. You always have somewhere else to be. I drove home and I realized something. I don't think you like me. I think you love me in some obligatory DNA way, but I don't think you actually like me. I don't think you enjoy my company. I don't think you've ever chosen me when there was another option. And that's fine. I'm 44 years old. I've accepted it. But it still hurts. It will always hurt. He thought I didn't like him. My son thought I didn't like him. And you know what the worst part is? I never proved him wrong. You want to know what the real twist is? It's not that I was a bad father. It's that I thought I was a good one. I provided. I paid. I showed up when it counted. I thought that was the job. But here's what I never knew about my son. I didn't know his favorite book. I found it on his shelf after he died. East of Eden by Steinbeck. It was worn, highlighted, notes in the margins. He'd read it at least 5 times based on the different colored inks. I never asked him what he was reading. I didn't know he played guitar. There was a Fender acoustic in his closet. Sarah told me he'd been teaching himself for 6 years. He was good, she said. He'd play for her on Sunday mornings. I never heard him play. He never mentioned it. Or maybe he did and I wasn't listening. I didn't know he was scared of becoming like me. Letter number 38, September 2020. Dad, I had a nightmare last night. I was 70 years old, sitting in a chair, and a young man walked in, my son. Except I didn't recognize him. He tried to talk to me, and I kept checking my watch. He tried to hug me, and I patted his shoulder, the way you pat mine. Stiff, brief, obligatory. I woke up in a panic, because that nightmare is my future if I don't change. I'm becoming you, Dad. Sarah pointed it out last week. She said I don't listen. I solve problems instead of hearing feelings. I'm present, but absent. I check my phone during conversations. I say, "That's great," without looking up. I'm 45 years old, and I'm turning into the one person I swore I'd never be. And the worst part? I don't know how not to, because you're the only model I have. My son had nightmares about becoming me. I didn't know he wanted to write a book. Sarah showed me 3 chapters he'd written. A novel about fathers and sons, about the space between people who share blood, but nothing else. It was good, really good. He never told me, never asked if I wanted to read it. Maybe he did ask years ago, and I said, "Sure, when you're finished." And he heard, "I'm not interested." I didn't know his favorite childhood memory. I asked Sarah. She said he told her once, the time we went to Dorney Park when he was 9, just us. His mom had the flu. We rode the roller coaster 7 times. We ate funnel cake until we were sick. We talked about nothing important, just talked for hours. I don't remember that day. I have no memory of it at all. His favorite childhood memory with me, and I don't remember it. But I remember shooting a 79 at Pine Valley in 2008. I remember the putt I made on 18. I remember exactly how it broke. I remember what I said to Jim afterwards. I remember golf. I don't remember my son's favorite day. Here's what I learned from Sarah in the week after the funeral. Sitting in their living room, her 7 months pregnant, me trying to understand who my son was. David volunteered at a literacy center every Thursday night, had been doing it for 4 years, taught adults to read. He never mentioned it. David donated 10% of his income to a scholarship fund for kids whose parents couldn't afford college. He never mentioned it. David was in recovery, not from drugs or alcohol, from workaholism. He joined a 12-step program in 2018 because he realized he was using work to avoid feelings. He went to meetings every Monday night for 5 years. He never mentioned it. David was the person his co-workers called when they were struggling, when they were getting divorced, when their parents were dying, when they needed someone to listen. He was the one they trusted. He was known for asking questions and actually caring about the answers. My son was the father to other people that I never was to him. I didn't know any of this. I knew he worked in finance. I knew he lived in Montclair. I knew he was married to Sarah. I knew he liked the Giants. Surface facts. Wikipedia information. I didn't know him. Sarah told me something that broke me. She said, "David talked about you all the time, but only in therapy and only to me. He'd say, 'I wonder what my dad would think about this.' And then he'd catch himself and say, 'Never mind, he wouldn't care.' He wanted your opinion, your approval, your attention so badly. Even at 48, even after decades of you proving you weren't available, he still wanted it. My son wanted my opinion. I gave him surface questions and checked my watch. Let me show you when it changed, when David stopped trying. The letters get different around 2021, shorter, more resigned. Letter number 42, March 2021. Dad, I'm not going to call you anymore unless it's important. Not because I'm mad, because I'm tired. I'm 46 years old, and I've spent those 46 years trying to have a relationship with you, trying to interest you in my life, trying to be the son you'd want to spend time with. But I don't think that son exists. I don't think any version of me would be enough to make you choose me over golf, over your friends, over your routines. So I'm done trying. I'll still show up at holidays. I'll still answer when you call. But I'm not going to initiate anymore. I'm not going to hope anymore. It hurts too much. So this is me letting go. Not of you, but of the fantasy that you'll ever be the father I needed. March 2021, 2 years before he died. That's when he gave up. I didn't notice. I didn't notice that he stopped calling, that he stopped suggesting dinners, that he stopped trying to tell me things. I actually thought it was nice. Less pressure, less obligation. He was finally understanding that I was busy, that I had my own life. He wasn't understanding. He was surrendering. Letter number 44, November 2021. Dad, you asked me today how I was doing. You haven't asked me that in months. I was so surprised I didn't know what to say, so I said, fine. But here's the truth. Sarah and I have been trying to have a baby for 14 years. 14 years of tests and treatments and failures and hope and devastation. We found out last month that it's probably not going to happen. The doctors said we could try IVF one more time, but the chances are almost zero. Sarah cried for 3 days. I held her, and I felt nothing. Not because I don't want a child, but because I'm numb. I've been numb for a year. I think I'm depressed, Dad. Actually, depressed. But when you asked how I was doing, I said, fine. Because we don't do real in this family. We do fine. We do surface. And I've learned that lesson well. November 2021. My son was depressed. He'd been trying for a baby for 14 years. I didn't know. When I asked, how are you? I didn't actually want to know. I wanted him to say, fine, so we could move on to easier topics. He knew that. So he said, fine. And I said, good. And we both played our parts. Letter number 45, April 2022. Dad, I've been thinking about legacy, about what we leave behind. You're 75. I'm 47. Statistically, you've got maybe 10 years left, maybe 15 if you're lucky. That's 520 weeks. Probably see you, 20 of those weeks? So 40 more times. 40 more superficial conversations about golf and weather and everything good before you die. And when you die, here's what I'll have. Memories of you at my graduation, at my wedding, at holiday dinners where you checked your watch. Photos of us where we're both smiling but not at each other. And a relationship that never got deeper than a kiddie pool. That's your legacy with me, Dad. Surface. And I've accepted it. This isn't anger, it's just math. 40 more times. Then you're gone. And I'll tell people my father was a good man who worked hard and provided for me. And I'll mean it. But I'll also know that you never really knew me. And I never really knew you. And that'll be the saddest part of your death. Not that you're gone, but that you were never really here. 40 more times. He'd done the math. He knew exactly how many more conversations we'd probably have before I died. And he'd accepted that they'd all be meaningless. I found something else in that drawer, a spreadsheet, Excel file, titled Time with Dad. he tracked it. From 2015 to 2023, he tracked every interaction we had: date, duration, topic discussed, how many times I checked my phone, how many times I cut the conversation short, how many times he tried to go deeper and I deflected. 8 years of data. The average conversation, 12 minutes. The average visit, 2.3 hours. The average phone calls per year, 23. The average times I checked my phone per visit, 8. The average times he tried to discuss something meaningful, 3 per visit. The average times I engaged with something meaningful, 0.4 per visit. He tracked it like a scientist, like he was studying a rare species, like he was trying to understand the pattern of my avoidance. And you know what I noticed in that spreadsheet? A column labeled, "Times Dad Asked About My Life." From 2015 to 2023, 8 years of data. I asked my son a meaningful question about his life 41 times. 41 questions in 8 years. That's 5 questions a year. 5 times a year, I ask my son something beyond how's work. Questions he tracked. What are you reading? What do you do for fun these days? Are you happy? All after major events, when it would have been weird not to ask. What are you afraid of? What do you dream about? What do you need from me? I never asked what he needed from me, not once in 8 years, maybe not once in his entire life. There was another file, video file, dated December 2022, 3 months before he died. I played it. It was David sitting in his office, talking to the camera, recording a message for me. He never sent it. I'm going to tell you what he said because I need you to understand what I lost, what you might be losing right now with your own children. He said, "Dad, I'm recording this because I can't say it to your face. I've tried. God knows I've tried. But every time I get close, you change the subject, or you make a joke, or you check your phone, and the moment passes. So I'm saying it here. I'm 47 years old, and I still want my father. Not the version who shows up to big events. Not the version who sends birthday cards and Christmas presents. I want the version who sees me, who asks questions, who gives a damn about the answers. I want the father who notices when I'm struggling, who calls not because it's my birthday, but because it's Tuesday and he was thinking about me. I want the father who cancels golf to have coffee with me, who says, "Tell me more," instead of, "That's great," who remembers what I told him last month. I want the father I've been writing letters to for 16 years. But here's what I've realized. That father doesn't exist. Not for me. Maybe he existed for someone else. Maybe you're that father to your golf buddies. Maybe you were that father to Barbara. But you're not that father to me. And I need to stop waiting for you to become him. This is me saying goodbye. Not to you, but to the hope of you. I'll still see you at holidays. I'll still answer your calls. I'll still play my part in this relationship we pretend to have. But I'm done hoping you'll change. I'm done being hurt when you don't. You're 75 years old, Dad. You are who you are. And I need to accept that who you are is not who I needed. I love you. I've always loved you. But I don't like the way you love me. I don't like surface. I don't like obligation. I don't like being someone you check off a list. So this is it. This is my acceptance speech. I accept that you'll never know me. I accept that I'll never know you. I accept that when you die, I'll cry not because I lost you, but because I never had you. And I accept that it's too late to change that. I hope you're happy, Dad. I really do. I hope golf makes you happy. I hope your friends make you happy. I hope retirement is everything you wanted. I'm going to try to be happy too. I'm going to try to be the father to my future child that you never were to me. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's the point. Maybe I break the cycle and that's my legacy. So yeah, that's what I needed to say. I won't send this. You won't see it. But I needed to say it out loud. Goodbye, Dad. To the version of you I wanted. To the relationship I hoped we'd have. Goodbye. The video ended. He sat there for a moment after, staring at the camera. Then he reached forward and turned it off. That was December 2022. He died March 2023. 3 months later. 3 months after he said goodbye to the hope of me, he was gone. And I never knew he'd given up. Sarah told me she knew about the letters, about the spreadsheet, about the video. She said he showed me everything. We'd talk about you sometimes late at night. He'd say, I think I'm finally okay with it. I think I've finally accepted that this is all it'll ever be. And I'd tell him I was sorry. And he'd say, it's not your fault. Some people just aren't built for depth. He meant you, obviously. He thought you weren't built for depth. But here's the thing. I was. I am. I have depth with my golf buddies. We talk about life, about fear, about aging, about death. Jim cried in front of me when his wife got diagnosed with cancer. I held him. I asked him how he was really doing. I called him every day for months. I have depth with my neighbor Steve. We talk about regret, about the things we wish we'd done differently, about our ex-wives and our failures and our hopes. I was capable of depth. I just never gave it to my son. Why? I've asked myself that question 10,000 times since I found those letters. Why? And here's what I think. Here's the only answer that makes any sense. Because he needed it too much. because his need felt like pressure. Because every conversation with David came with the weight of his hope that this time would be different. That this time I'd ask a real question. That this time I'd listen. And that weight made me uncomfortable. So I kept it light, kept it surface, kept it safe. I gave depth to people who didn't need it from me, because it was easy, because it was optional, because I could walk away whenever I wanted. But with David, I couldn't walk away. He was my son. So I stayed surface, where it was safe, where there were no expectations I might fail to meet. I chose my comfort over his need for 48 years. And now he's gone. And I'm sitting here with 47 unsent letters and a spreadsheet and a video of my son saying goodbye to me while I was still alive. That's the real loss. Not that he died, but that he lived 48 years with a father who chose surface over depth, comfort over courage, golf over him, every single time. So let me tell you what you're going to do. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when things calm down. Today, you're going to put this down and you're going to call your child, your father, your mother, whoever you've been keeping at surface level because depth feels hard. You're going to call them and you're going to ask them one real question. Not how are you, not everything good, a real question. What are you afraid of right now? What's something you wish I knew about you? What do you need from me that you're not getting? And then, this is the hard part, you're going to shut up and listen. You're not going to solve. You're not going to fix. You're not going to check your phone. You're going to listen like their answer matters. Because it does. Because you don't have as much time as you think you do. Let me show you the math. If your child is 30 years old and you're 55, you probably have about 25 years left if you're lucky. That's 1,300 weeks. If you see them twice a month, which is more than I saw David, that's 600 more visits. Sounds like a lot, right? It's not. Because half of those visits will be holidays and obligations where you're surrounded by other people, where real conversation is impossible, where you'll default to surface because that's what groups do. So really, you have about 300 meaningful visits left. And of those 300, how many will you actually be present for? How many will you put your phone away for? How many will you ask real questions? If you're like I was, maybe 50. 50 real conversations with your child before one of you dies. That's it. That's all you get. And you're wasting them on how's work and traffic bad? Stop it. Stop wasting them. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but my kid is busy. They don't want to have deep conversations with me. They'd think it was weird if I suddenly started asking about their fears and dreams. You're wrong. They do want it. They're just protecting themselves from hoping for it because you've trained them not to. Every time they've tried to go deep and you've deflected, you've taught them that you're not safe for depth, that you're not interested, that they should keep it light. But they want it. I know they want it, because David wanted it for 48 years. He wanted it so badly he wrote 47 letters. He wanted it so badly he tracked our conversations in a spreadsheet, trying to find the pattern that would unlock me. He wanted it so badly he recorded a video saying goodbye to the hope of it. Your child wants it too, but you have to go first. You have to be brave enough to ask the real question, to sit in the uncomfortable silence when they don't know how to answer because you've never asked before, to prove that this time is different. Here's what I would do if I could go back. I would cancel golf. Not forever, but I would miss one round a week to have breakfast with David. Just breakfast, 1 hour, one real conversation. That's 52 hours a year. Over 16 years, that's 832 hours. That's 34 full days with my son. I would ask him what he was reading, what he was learning, what he was afraid of, what he hoped for, what he needed from me. I would put my phone in another room when we talked. I wouldn't check it, not once. I would remember what he told me. I would write it down if I had to. And I would bring it up next time. I would say, "Last month you said you were worried about X. How's that going?" I would prove I was listening. I would tell him I was proud of him, not for the big things, for the small things, for teaching himself guitar, for volunteering, for being the person his friends called when they were hurting. I would tell him I saw him. I would admit my failures. I would say, "I'm sorry I haven't been the father you needed. I want to do better. Tell me how." I would invite him into my life, not just my calendar, my actual life, my fears, my regrets, my questions. I would stop pretending I had it all figured out. I would choose him over golf, over comfort, over pride, over routine. I would choose him. But I can't go back. You can. You still have time. Not much, but some. I'm 76 years old. I'm healthy. I'll probably live another 10 years, maybe 15. And I have a granddaughter now. Emma was born 4 months after David died. She's 10 months old. She has his eyes, his smile. Sarah brings her over once a week. I hold her and I tell her about her daddy. I tell her he was kind, that he was brave, that he was the man I should have been. I tell her things I never told him, and she looks at me with those eyes, his eyes, and I wonder if she can feel it, the weight of everything I didn't say, everything I didn't do, I'm going to be different with her. I'm going to be the grandfather I never was a father. I'm going to ask her real questions. I'm going to listen to her answers. I'm going to cancel golf. I'm going to show up. Not because it'll fix what I broke with David. It won't. But because I owe her better. I owe her the version of me he never got. And maybe, when she's older and Sarah tells her about her father, she'll also have stories about me, real stories, about conversations and presence and being known. Maybe I can break the cycle for her, but I can't bring him back. I can't undo 48 years of surface. I can't take back you too instead of I love you, David. I can't recover the 3,388 hours I spent on golf instead of with him. I can't unhear him saying, I've accepted that this is all it'll ever be. I can't unfind those letters, that spreadsheet, that video. I have to live with it. Every day for the rest of my life, I have to live with the fact that my son died wanting a father I was fully capable of being, but chose not to be. You don't have to live with that. You still have time. So here's what you're going to do right now. Put this down. Pick up your phone. Call them. Say, hey, I was thinking about you. Do you have time to talk? Really talk? And when they say yes because they've been waiting for you to ask, you're going to ask them something real. You're going to listen. You're going to write down their answer. You're going to call them again next week and the week after that. You're going to choose them. Not someday. Today. Because someday is a lie we tell ourselves. Someday is what I told David every time he asked for more. Someday we'll do that fishing trip. Someday I'll have more time. Someday I'll be less busy. Someday never came. March 14th, 2023 came instead. 11:47 p.m. Your son. Accident. I'm so sorry. Don't wait for your version of March 14th. Don't wait until you're sitting in a hospital hallway trying to remember the last time you really saw them. Don't wait until you're reading letters they wrote but never sent. Don't wait until you're doing the math of all the hours you spent on things that didn't matter. Do it now. Choose them now. Because I'm telling you, I'm begging you, you don't have as much time as you think you do. And when time runs out, the only thing you'll have left is regret. Regret and a folder full of evidence of a life you could have lived with them, but didn't. I have 47 letters from my son, 16 years of words he wanted to say but couldn't. And I would give everything, every golf trophy, every retirement dollar, every comfortable moment I chose over him. I would give it all for one more hour, one more real conversation, one more chance to ask, What do you need from me? And actually wait for the answer. But I don't get that chance. You do. Don't waste it. Emma is crying upstairs. Sarah just texted. It's my day with her. I'm going to go hold my granddaughter and tell her about the father I failed to be to her daddy. And then I'm going to try to be better, starting today. You should too.